Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like.
Check out the podcast below in the description.
This doesn't stop. This does
No.
not stop. And I think the reason it doesn't stop is because it's not over. It's that simple. We talked about it with Brent Musburger, one of the Raiders' defense, and then Mayock spoke, and said Derek's a really good quarterback, which is accurate. Dianna Russini, ESPN Dianna, goes on McAfee and says the Seahawks are talking to teams on Russ's list. And then there was some question about whether Seattle was calling teams or Seattle was receiving calls. She said he's not happy in Seattle. She then follows it up with a tweet. I was told the Seahawks are not, quote-unquote, shopping Russell Wilson, but calls made from other teams inquiring have been answered. So that's where it stands from a Seattle standpoint.
I think it's fair to say that there would be teams beside that we're not on the list that have called, right? Like, we're going to talk about what the Raiders should offer here, but I think it would be naive to think that the Washington football team, right? Let's just use them as an example.
Yeah.
Who's another team? The Carolina Panthers aren't actively calling, thinking like, well, let's just talk him into coming here, right? That to me, it's just
the Dolphins.
I think it would
might be interested.
Yeah, the Jets, whoever. I think it would be very short-sighted and very just ignorant to the way we know this world works. That like all of a sudden Kevin Durant and Kyrie were going to the New York Knicks for a fucking year, and then they end up with the Nets. Things change fast. His list felt a little crazy. I do think there was, and we had talked about this over and over, though, even if that means the Jets and the Dolphins get involved, the Raiders for Seattle, part of this if you're Seattle, even if you don't really like Russell anymore, not necessarily as a player, they're just tired of this. And I think that is, it's not even arguable at this point in time. They're just tired of the drama. He's become a little bit of pain in their ass. For a guy, again, he's really good, and you could argue that, well, he's so good, who cares if he's a pain in the ass? That's not how Pete's going to think. I would say that the Raiders are the only team, and we've talked about this with Derek, that can really, like the Saints make no sense. They just have all these picks. They don't have a quarterback to give them. The Cowboys, one, their quarterback's not under contract. Two, he'd have to agree to be tagged and traded. Three, like why would Seattle want to pay Dak Prescott $150 million? And then the Bears also have zero quarterback to give them, and their picks aren't that great. The Raiders, whose picks aren't great either, pick 17, have Derek Carr, who I was talking to a friend yesterday, who's on a team that's in a quarterback needy situation. And I started rattling off guys, Goff, Jimmy, Dak, like kind of that crew of guys. He's like, honestly, if you just look at last year in a vacuum, Derek was better than that like second, third tier of guys, right? You have your top 3 or 4 guys in the league. Then you have like your next, probably 4 or 5, kind of like a Josh Allen, Lamar, who just you can still dominate with, who are kind of ascending. And then you just have the guys that are established, that are 28 to like 31, the Cousins, the Carrs. He's like, I'd take Carr over them all.
Wow.
I'm
surprised to hear Mike McCarthy say that.
So the Raiders could give them Carr, which they would immediately save money. And then, like, what is the rest? What would be a fair offer? Because they can make an offer that these other teams, and you can throw in, I guess you could throw in if the Jets got involved. Let's say they could convince them to go to New York. They do have Sam Darnold to give them. But Derek is dramatically better than Sam Darnold right now. And one thing you'd say about Seattle, if they are going to be willing to trade Derek, they are not the Houston Texans. If I told you, or excuse me, they're trade Russell. If Seattle trades Russell, they're planning just resetting in 2021. Like, they ain't into the reset life. Wouldn't you agree? If they do make a move, they're going to try to still be good in 2021.
Yeah. This is why I said the first offer. Now, I did back off of this because it's a too low of an offer. But I don't think it's too low based on what you just said. You laughed at me. You not laughed. You yelled at me.
I laughed.
Laughed and yelled when incredulous when I said the Raiders' first offer should be Derek plus a 1 plus a 2 because Derek is worth 2 1s. Now, in your defense, if we're going to take your
Derek worth 2 1s though?
I think on a high end he is. But if the Bears called and said we want Derek and the Raiders said 2 1s, what would the Bears say?
I think they'd be like, well, could we do a 1 and a 2?
Yeah, they probably would. But
we're not hanging up. What would Washington football team say?
Yeah, they would do it. What would the Saints say?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think
but
it's a guy 2-1.
Yeah.
That seems crazy.
No, I know. Okay, but the point is just the Raiders would have an advantage. And again, for
Jamal Adams just went for 2-1s though. Is it that crazy?
I don't think it's that crazy because all it takes is two teams. And again, for people who hate that this conversation continues, it's because Derek is good that this conversation continues, right? Because they are unique. And actually, the real reason it continues is because Russ put him on the list. Yeah, that's the real reason.
And okay, the headline: what would they offer? I think any Raider fan would have to acknowledge, well, could we get him, relatively cheap? Let's face it, Raider fans, even the guys that like Derek, no one thinks he's some elite player, but I think we acknowledge he's good if you're a positive. And if you're a negative, you go, well, we never make the playoffs with him, whatever. Would a fair offer be Derek 2 1s and a 2 over a 4-year span? So I give you Derek this year and I give you pick
17.
Pick 17. Next year, let's say I give you a 2. And then the following year, I give you a 1. However you want to stagger it. Do you think Derek, 2 1s and a 2 over the course of 2 or 3 years, get it done? Because if you're Seattle, you go, we get rid of Russ. We get a starting quarterback that we know we can win with. Maybe not win as big as Russell, but they haven't been winning that big with Russell. Compete with. And we get a first-round pick, which is 17, which is pretty good given that, I don't know, guy, they don't have a first-round pick. If you are going to trade Russell and just in the short term, you got back Derek and pick 17, I think you feel pretty good, right? No other team on his list can sniff that.
Yeah, I think you feel good because, well, I don't know if you feel good.
They're not going to trade Russell without getting a quarterback back, in my opinion.
Well, the question is, when you say would they do Derek 2 1s and a 2, here's what you have to put it next to something. So let's put it next to Derek 2 1s and a 2, or the Saints 4 1s.
Yeah, I'd rather have the Raiders offer.
If you're the Seahawks, you'd rather have that. Now, if you're another team, you might rather have the 4 1s.
The Texans type team,
but
right?
We've talked about this. The Seahawks hate first-round pick. The Seahawks would rather have players than picks. They keep showing us because they keep trading picks for players.
17's right in the wheelhouse where they never drafted. That's their cutoff, right? That pick actually is not. That could be kind of intriguing because they go, we get a big-time starter right there, right? You know who was 17 last year? That was the Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb range. I mean, I think CeeDee Lamb went 17. I think CeeDee Lamb was a 17th pick in the 2021 draft because I'm pretty sure Terrell, the Falcons drafted 16th, if memory serves me correct, and there was the corner, and then CeeDee Lamb fell to the Cowboys at 17. So, I mean, that's the type player you get, and you get a starting quarterback. But I also, I'm not giving you Russell just for Derek. So it's you do have to overpay. That's where I think you got to go 1 and 2.
CD was 17, yeah. So, but I would argue I don't think you get. I think CeeDee Lamb's a bit of an outlier at 17, but
I would tend to agree, but that's just what comes up in the draft room. Well, who was the 17th pick last year? Right, CeeDee Lamb. So I don't know. I mean, I think the Raiders are equipped if they're interested in doing this deal, guy. They are the most equipped of the teams on the list. Now, there are other teams that could throw their hat in the ring that could throw things off. But as of right now, based on the information we have, Russell doesn't want to go to those teams. I just think that those teams aren't going to go quietly.
Yeah, the other part of this goes back to Dianna saying he's not happy in Seattle. He's not happy. I think part of the equation here is, what is Seattle unhappy with him?
Yes, I think they are.
Yeah, so if they're if they are unhappy with him and he's unhappy with them, then, this is not Deshaun and Houston, where Deshaun's unhappy with them, but Houston's not unhappy with him, right? There's a little bit of a difference in that Houston's saying, blow us away. Seattle, you'd have to blow them away, but there'd be a part of Seattle going, we just want to get this. We just want to get this over with and move on. And if we can get our
but I don't think you can ever have that thought process when you have the elite asset. They have a very powerful asset in a guy that's an all-time quarterback.
I mean, no, you shouldn't. But I mean, if they're not happy, what is that? That is an emotion. That's an emotion. We're not happy with him. That's an
well. If I called John Gruden and Mayock right now and said you could have Russell for Derek, a 1 this year and a 2 next year. I think they would fucking drive those picks, right?
Yeah, and I don't think Seattle would say yes to that.
You keep saying that it has to hurt. Because when I'm trading you a elite all-time great quarterback, even if he does have some leverage, right, because there's only so many teams you could trade him to, and it's clear that you're the only team that has a tangible thing to give back that is valuable by itself in Derek.
You're saying you should get a third one from them?
Well, not the third one, but it's like, okay, Derek, 2 1s and maybe a 2 and a 3. And you can stagger however you want to do
or
it.
Or a player.
But the Raiders don't have fucking any players to give.
Well, you said Josh Jacobs last time.
Yeah, but there is a balance. Like if I'm Russ and the Raiders, like I want to keep good players.
Of course.
And honestly, if I'm Seattle, I actually think first and second round picks are pretty valuable to them because they get cheaper assets, right?
They don't want a guy who's going to have to get paid soon who was a highly drafted player.
Yeah. Like Josh Jacobs is what, going into year 3? Yeah, I mean, he's a year away from probably wanting an extension.
Yeah.
Now I bring him up because I just think he has, like, I bet Pete. I'd be shocked if the Seattle Seahawks didn't like Josh Jacobs coming out. Wouldn't you?
Would the Raiders say no if the deal had to include Waller?
Well, I think Cowards mentioned that today. I don't see how you acquire Russell Wilson and trade Waller.
Well, I know.
Yes, I don't think you do that.
Derek and Waller and a 1 and a 2. What's Waller worth if you were to offer
a first round pick?
Well, no, I know. I'm asking what else is he worth besides 1 first round pick? Is he worth? I think he's worth a 1 and a 2 at minimum.
Yeah, he's worth a lot.
So,
but again, what are you doing now? You're getting rid of all these things. Like what are you doing?
Question, but the question is not would the Raiders. The question is what would you have to give Seattle?
Yeah, my question though is what if you're the Raiders? Are you just like, hey, this is our offer. This is what we were prepared to do a deal. If not, we move on. Like to me, I would be prepared to go Derek 2 1s and a 2. That's a lot, but that would be my deal. And the way I would do it is probably be like Derek and my 1 this year, a 2 next year, and like a 1 the fall. Stagger it. But I'm not throwing Waller. Like Waller's a non-starter. Like yeah, we're good then. Whole point of this whole thing is to have good players like Waller and Derek.
Yeah,
I can win with them. I need to get defensive guys.
The hard part with Waller is that he was year fined too.
But it's not even that. Like he's just sweet. Like he's legit. Like you don't trade Travis Kelce or Gronk in their prime. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't unless so I agree with you, but we're talking about Gruden here, and Gruden's going to hang up the phone, and what it's going to be is like, okay, so I'm hanging up. This means I'm not getting Russell Wilson. Like, yep, you're not getting Russell Wilson. I just have a hard time seeing Gruden hit end call on that one. But
do you think Seattle would be viewed as a good trade if it was Derek, Waller, and a 1?
I mean, if you said 2 1s, I would say yes, it would be viewed as a good trade. 1-1, we're teetering here. But yeah, I think it would be viewed positively from their perspective.
That's not a lot of draft capital, man, for Russell Wilson. You're getting a guy that's, almost 30
but
who's had a couple
we know that they value I'm going with the premise that they value players over picks.
But to build a good team, you need to have picks, especially with a high-priced team.
Well, they keep trading them.
Well, because they tried to win with Russell and it didn't work. So it's like you kind of reset, but you can still win. They have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
No, they don't.
I'm not
need
saying
Waller,
you wouldn't want Waller,
but no one need. I mean, I shouldn't say they don't need him.
I would rather have another 1 than Waller. I can always trade that pick for Waller if I ever get into a position. But again, I think Waller's a non-starter. Like I don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't be interested in trading now. Now it's like, well, my defense was already a weakness. Am I making my offense better?
Yeah, to me, that's
I'm not setting Russ up to succeed.
To me, my Raider offer, if I'm the Raiders and I feel I would do this, would be Derek 2 1s and a 2, and then stagger it over a period of time.
Okay, but here's my final answer on that. I think you have to be prepared for Seattle to say we want another 1.
Yeah, and I just say, well, we're good. Go to the Saints and the Bears.
I don't
they
know
just
if
don't
Gruden
have. I'm just saying that would be mine. Gruden is. If you told me trade 5 1s, Derek.
But that's what we're talking about here. Like what you would do is like John Gruden's the GM.
But this is what I would offer. Yeah, I don't. Gruden would get just. I mean, it would be like, what the fuck's going on? If you're Russell, like, how can you allow them to do that?
Yeah.
Trading Waller?
No. I'm not talking about Waller. I'm talking about Derek and 3 ones. I'm not talking about Waller.
Yeah, it'd be a lot, but I think Seattle, that's not crazy.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like that would hurt, but it would also get you Russell Wilson.
Yeah. So you basically traded him for.
So my point, just to reiterate, what you said, I would offer Derek 2. You said 2 1s and a 2, right? And I'm saying just be prepared for the Seahawks to say we want another 1 in return.
Yeah, and they should.
Yeah, and they should. And that would hurt, which is what it should hurt. But you'd walk away with Russell Wilson.
The leverage that the Raiders have is Derek.
That's right.
I think that is something they have that the other teams can't even begin to. I mean, it's just a non-starter with the other 3 teams.
Yeah, but this isn't even about, like, unfortunately, if you hate this conversation, it happens to be that we're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You're not trying. No one's trying to get rid of Derek. He's really one of the least of their problems. That's what makes this whole thing crazy. Derek is not the issue. Derek's one of the best things they got going.
We are just commenting on a story that's literally going on, and she basically said the teams are calling. Well, who the fuck are the teams?
And by the
Raiders
way,
are talking to Seattle. We know that. That's happening.
You have to call.
Yeah, they called. They talked.
You have to call.
Yeah, they did.
I'm not even reacting to the reaction. I'm just saying it's pretty crazy that we got to the point where Derek, like, it became clear that he is not only is he not a negative, he is one of their biggest positives. Well, and then this stuff comes up. And then you lay this shit on me?
Well, that's where, in fairness to John Gruden, and people shit on him, he does deserve credit there. He took a guy who wasn't very valuable 3 years later and made him very valuable. Because if Derek had sucked, I would say that they would have no opportunity to get him. Like, Derek being good makes this, I think, a realistic possibility. Right. And Gruden, that's where Gruden does deserve credit.
And that's the other beauty of this is they're not operating from a place of desperation because it has to work for them. Because they should be satisfied going, no, you know what, we're going to stick with Derek Carr.
That's where my point is for the Raiders. It's a very easy thing if Gruden was a normal human to just give a number, give an offer, and be like, listen, this is my final offer. If it's cool with you, great, take it. But if not, like, we're just going to keep rocking and rolling.
It's good logic. Because they may reach a point where they say no, but then it becomes untenable. He's got to go, and they call you because you're the only one that can offer them Derek.
Yep.